The Miss Supranational 2024 competition has concluded and we have to talk about it, guys, because Indonesia won, which was not my predicted winner, but as you'll see, I was pretty happy about it overall. We just have to talk about the show and everything that happened. So first of all, they had the girls come out in these cute little sequin outfits. Now, in my opinion, sequin is always the way to go when it comes to introduction outfits. I thought all of the girls looked very, very cute. And of course, the hosts came out. And I said this in my Mr. Supranational video, but I am just so glad that they had Nico Panagio from South Africa host Miss Supranational and Mr. Supranational this year. I just love him. He's such an icon. He's such a George Clooney figure in South Africa. And if I may say so myself, he does have, DILF energy. They were speaking a lot of Polish in this edition of Miss Supranational. Now, I know Miss Supranational is based in Poland, but usually they don't do this much Polish at Miss Supranational. So I wonder what that was about. Was it one of the requests of the sponsors or the media company? I don't know what that was about, but there was a lot more Polish at this edition of Miss Supranational than ever before. So they started introductions where the girls actually walk up to microphones and introduce themselves. And I can say at least they weren't having the girls screeching their country's name into the microphone like insane people. The girls actually did have the opportunity to introduce themselves with some dignity, name, surname, and everything. So I was happy about that. And say what you will about Miss Supranational, but they have some of the best lighting of any international pageant out there. The lighting on the Miss Supranational stage is always on point. And I just absolutely have to mention that Ghana came up with the same introduction that she had during the initial introduction weeks ago when the girls introduced themselves at the sashing/opening ceremony. And once again, she reiterated that Ghana was the home of the best Afro beats and jollof rice. And later when Nigeria came out, she also didn't say anything about this. She did not defend Nigerian jollof rice. So I guess Ghana must be correct. But I'm really not a fan of the fact that they split introductions into two different sort of segments with a sort of tame musical number in the middle, because I feel like introductions has such great energy, and just to put this tame sort of musical number in the middle was sort of, it lost the speed of the introductions, in my opinion, a little bit. And obviously, being South African, I have to mention when Bryoni came up to introduce herself, she was in the perfect color. Oh, I just thought that she looked so beautiful. And obviously, after introductions, they had the reigning Miss Supranational come out, Andrea Aguilera from Ecuador, and she was definitely wearing an outfit, a gown. It was definitely something. It's not for me, guys. I'm not one for these extremely extravagant sort of outfits that we're seeing a lot of nowadays. But hey, she has a figure to kill, so that's her business. Notable people on the judging panel, we had Kim Du Yen, who once represented Vietnam at Miss Universe and also a second runner-up at Miss Supranational once upon a year. And then there is the new Mr. Supranational, of course, Dr. Fazile Mkhize from South Africa, whom I'm so proud of. He was also on the judging panel for Miss Supranational 2024 this year. And then lastly, of course, we can't exclude Gerard, who is the president of Miss Supranational. He's always gonna be there. He's like a father figure. And then they decided to do a very long segment showing the national costumes. And on the one hand, I do understand the desire to show the national costumes to the people who may not have taken the initiative to go and watch the national costume video on the Miss Supranational channel themselves. But what was really criminal is for them to put the same two songs over this little segment that they repeatedly played during the entirety of the national costume competition the other day. And In my opinion, I felt like the segments that they showed for national costumes were a bit too long. I know that they were trying to show each and every angle, but honestly, I think in the interest of saving time and moving things along, cutting these segments shorter would have been better. And from this point forward, I'm not gonna complain in this video about the super long breaks and wasting time from Miss Supranational anymore, because, you know, at this point, we know what Miss Supranational is doing and we choose to suffer when we watch it live. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. However, with that being said, I must say I didn't really feel bored that often during the actual show. Of course, in the long segments when they show the random little videos, it can get a little bit tiring and tedious, but the actual show was really enticing to watch. Which leads me to the fashion show. So they had like a little segment called the fashion show where all of the contestants came out in various outfits, and it was a really fun and energetic segment. I loved the girls. They looked like they were having fun. They were interacting with each other. Obviously it was a bit busy. There were a lot of people on stage. The cameraman didn't really know where to be. And, you know, that can be a little bit frustrating for somebody like me who is looking to analyze somebody's performance or what have you. But you know what? It isn't that serious. It's not that serious. So at the end of the day, for the fashion show, I knew obviously this is probably not going to go towards who actually makes the top 24. I mean, that's decided by prelims. So I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the vibes, and I did enjoy the fact that Bryoni once again showed up in a color. I love Bryoni in color. I feel like it pops so well on her, and I just love what Bryoni was doing all through Miss Supranational this year. So when the top 24 was announced, I wasn't surprised that South Africa ended up being the contestant's choice, which is basically like Miss Congeniality, and that got her into the top 24. I think it's just a beautiful testament to her character. Supermodel of the year ended up being Slovakia, not surprising. The Super Chat winner was Curacao. Myanmar was the influencer winner, and the rest of the 24 consisted of the Czech Republic, Honduras, India, of course, the United States, and she was on my list, but I was actually surprised that she got in after her national costume. Aruba, Japan, Romania, also a dark horse on my list, Germany, Nigeria, of course, Iceland, who's lovely, also on my list, Mexico, United Kingdom, love her, Puerto Rico, Indonesia, Peru, definitely, Denmark, who was expected, Thailand, who was my predicted winner, Bolivia, the Philippines, and I almost forgot about her, and she is even a favorite of mine, and lastly, Finland. And I said lastly, but I lied, because there was allegedly a tie, and so we ended up with a top 25 instead of a top 24, and Brazil was actually the 25th contestant, and Brazil was one of my favorites, and initially I didn't even notice that she wasn't in the top 24 until they called her as the 25th contestant, which was so lucky because I've been in love with Brazil. The biggest shock of all, however, about this top 25 is that there was no Poland in the top 25 at Miss Supranational this year. I literally think it might rain. Other shocking non-placements at Miss Supranational this year is, other than Poland, is Colombia and Belgium. Belgium, who I absolutely adored, and Colombia as well. They were both in my predicted top 12. They didn't end up making finals, which was absolutely insane to me. However, I was able to predict 19 out of the 25 contestants who did make it. And to be fair, I only had 24 contestants on my list. So for the swimsuit competition, the girls came out in these lovely goldish, yellowish type of bikinis and swimsuits with this big black dramatic sort of cape, and I still hate the way that the Miss Supranational organization do swim walks and gown walks. The 2x2 method is not something that works, in my opinion. The walks were too fast. You don't get the chance to enjoy the women and their walks and get to see them have fun and all of that. Nobody gets their place in the limelight when it's 2x2. It's just so annoying every year when they do this. I absolutely hate it when they make these women walk together instead of giving every single one their own place to shine in the sun, because this also makes it so that we can't really concentrate and form an opinion about how a girl is performing. And I feel like, you know, the audience and the viewers should have just as great of a vantage point as the judges, let's say, and the opportunity to think for themselves and form their own opinion instead of just giving like a quick 2-second look at a contestant before having to move on to someone else because the stage is too crowded with too many people. Anyway, Brazil killed it, obviously. Curacao had a bit of underboob, which I didn't think her thing fitted her properly. India was crazy good. Slovakia's body is absolutely insane. South Africa even gave a little turn, and Thailand brought all of it. So those were the ones who actually were able to catch my eye during the lightning fast swimsuit round. So the top 12 was announced, and the fan vote winner was, no surprise, Denmark. United States also got in, which is very surprising to me. India, not surprising at all. Finland, Thailand, of course, Curacao, Czech Republic, who's my first runner-up, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Indonesia, the Philippines, South Africa. They called out South Africa into the top 12 dead last, and my heart almost exploded because, you know, at least top 12, you know, I definitely thought that Bryoni at least deserved top 12. So seeing her go into the top 12 made me happy. Of the 12 that did make it, I got 8 out of 12 on my final prediction, and the 2 women who did not make it into the top 12, who I was very surprised about, was the UK and Peru. I 100% thought that the UK at least deserved a top 12 placement, but also Peru. I thought Peru has been great throughout the competition. So those 2 not placing in the top 12 were a little bit shocking to me. So the top 12 actually had to tell the judges why they would make great Miss Supranational representatives, or why they would make a great ambassador for the Miss Supranational organization. And I don't know how to feel about this because, first of all, I feel like they gave the girls too little time. They gave them 20 seconds each to answer, which I feel like forced the girls to rush, because a lot of the girls were talking like they were rapping. They were like this, just listing off things, and it gets overwhelming. These girls should have the opportunity to, you know, speak with a reasonable pace and have at least 30 seconds. 20 seconds was definitely too little time. I also had this thought cross my mind when they started with South Africa, but they could have started with anyone and this thought would have crossed my mind still, is that the first person speaking is probably inherently at a disadvantage due to the fact that everybody else can hear their answer first. And so, you know, ostensibly the last person to answer should have the best answer because they have heard everybody else and have sort of clicked in their mind what worked and what didn't and what they should say and had the most time to think about it. But then again, I do think that all of the contestants, not only the top 12, but every single one of the contestants were prompted at the end of time. Listen, if you make top 12, you're going to have to tell the judges why you. And so I think every single woman there already had sort of an answer in their mind, although some didn't come across as well when they actually spoke their answers. South Africa I thought was very good. The Philippines was also good. Indonesia talked a little bit fast for my liking. She's one of those that went a little bit fast. Puerto Rico had beautiful confidence. I loved Brazil's tone. Czech Republic was good. Curacao was very convincing actually. Thailand basically rapped. She basically rapped when she was starting to talk. It was giving Eminem really. India, not too bad. Finland, not my favorite. Denmark comes across as very pretentious. I'm very sorry to say that. And the United States was fine, I guess. Then, of course, after this, it was time for evening gown, which, again, Nobody had their time in the limelight. There was way too much going on stage. The poor cameraman couldn't keep up. Man probably has whiplash now. Please, for the love of all that is holy, please, at least just for gown. Forget swim. Just at least just for gown. I'm begging, let the girls come out one by one. Brazil looked absolutely spectacular in this blue-green dress that she was wearing, so gorgeous. Curacao was in her prelims dress, but it was still pretty. Czech Republic was also in a prelims dress, which was still amazing. Denmark looked pretty. Finland was not my favorite. India was insanely good. I loved this for her. Indonesia, if I'm being honest, I'm just sick of silver. Philippines, I loved the pink. It just looked so pretty. Puerto Rico was in her prelims dress with the cape that I hate. And South Africa came in this beautiful sort of gown with the neckline being so cool. I loved it. And the gold suiting her so perfectly. Thailand was also stunning. And I did love the unique sort of details on United States' dress. So after this, it was time to announce the top 5, and first one to be called into the top 5 was the United States, which honestly, this was downright unbelievable after what she pulled at national costume, to be honest with you. I definitely think that had she won, she would have to have answered for what exactly the idea was behind this national costume, because at this moment it does not look good. Second to be called was Brazil. Brazil, you guys know I live and die for this woman. She is absolutely incredible, so I thought it was well deserved. Indonesia was called, which was also unsurprising. Czech Republic was also called, which made a lot of sense. And now at this point there was one spot left, and of course there were some girls who I were expecting to get into the top 5 who obviously did not. And at this point for me it was between South Africa, Thailand and India, but at the end of the day it actually was Curacao that ended up getting into the top 5, which left South Africa, Thailand and India out, which I was so sad about. And because my track record supposedly for Miss Supranational predictions had been so good thus far, I was so bummed to see that only 2 out of 5 of my predicted top 5 had made it, so that's definitely not my best work. But the girls had to do such an interesting challenge. The organization showed pictures of them as children everywhere, and they had to give advice to that little girl, which I thought was a great type of challenge to give to them. You know, instead of just your regular schmegular Q&A, I like that the Miss Supranational organization is keeping it interesting with their speaking challenges as well. Okay, I have to say about Brazil, she was emotional, allegedly crying, no tears in sight, however, but the voice was crackling up. It was a bit jarring to see someone give all the signs of crying but no tears. But she didn't do a bad job. The United States, you know what, I was pleasantly surprised. She's a very natural speaker. I love the way she spoke so naturally, so I cannot be mad at the United States. The Czech Republic, she did have a lot of emotion in her voice. But not bad. She actually did quite good in my opinion. When Indonesia started speaking and talking about her childhood and everything, they cut to her mother in the audience, and that damn near put me to tears. That damn near had me on the floor sobbing. You guys know I lost my mother, and seeing Indonesia's mother sitting there bawling, being so proud of her daughter, it gets to me, and it got to me over there. So that was something. It really evoked a visceral reaction within me. So I already was sort of not even rooting for Indonesia, rooting for her mom, more like, because I just know when she won, her mother must have just been going crazy, which I love for her. I love that for her. Lastly, Curacao. Now, I actually thought Curacao was the one who did the best in this top 5 challenge. She was great. She gave a very powerful speech, very, very inspirational. I thought Curacao actually did amazing in this. One of the things that happened after this is that Umkharat actually received a little award from the Miss Supranational organization, even though he arguably is the Miss Supranational organization because he's the president. After this, it was time to crown the Continental Queen. Continental Queen of Africa is South Africa, and she looked low-key annoyed getting crowned Continental Queen of Africa the whole time. For Americas, it was Mexico. For Asia and Oceania, it was the Philippines. For the Caribbean, it was Puerto Rico. And for Europe, it was Denmark. Then, of course, before the actual crowning commences, we always have to have the final walk for our reigning Miss Supranational, or our reigning queen in most pageants. And Andrea came out, and I have to say, she has very peculiar taste in fashion. You know, this race also, it made me go like this, and then like this, and then I decided to actually just listen to her voiceover instead, and it was very emotional. It was very emotion evoking, the way she spoke, the things she said. Obviously she's a very kind and humble and sweet person, and it's always sort of bittersweet to say goodbye to a reigning queen. But anyway, the show must go on, and the fourth runner-up ended up being Curacao. Now, I really wouldn't have minded if Curacao had won this thing after the top 5 challenge. Same with the third runner-up, who ended up being Brazil. I actually thought Brazil would be a little bit higher up, just like the Czech Republic, who was second runner-up. Czech Republic was definitely top 2 for me, so for her to end up as second runner-up was a bit of a shock. So this meant that the final 2 was the United States and Indonesia. I didn't like where this was going just because of, well, you know, the costume. But at the end of the day, the winner was announced to be Indonesia, and so we were all saved from having a Miss Supranational who would imminently be cancelled for cultural appropriation. And I'm just so glad about that. Indonesia, in my view, definitely deserved the win. Obviously, you know what? Anyone would deserve the win. There are so many people who would deserve to win. It's very subjective. But Indonesia has what it takes to be a great Miss Supranational, and I'm definitely glad that she and her mom get to celebrate, because Lord knows if anyone deserves it, it's her sweet mom, who was bawling in the audience while she was talking about her childhood. I just can't. That just got to me. Besides, you know, Indonesia throughout it all, she's been so sincere and she seems so sweet. And you know what? I'm happy with who we have as Miss Supranational. I'm definitely happy with who we have as Mr. Supranational. Now, as a South African, I feel like I'm obliged to say something about Bryoni, which I did say in my Mr. Supranational video, but I know more people are going to be watching this. So I just need the Miss South Africa organization to do something to honor Bryoni, because to be honest, you know, Natasha is amazing and she's been doing amazing work as Miss South Africa. She is obviously the crowned, reigning Miss South Africa. Give her all the spotlight she needs. But Bryoni has just been South Africa's hopes and dreams internationally for the past year. You know, she's sort of like the vice Miss South Africa. Well, I suppose that's exactly what she is as the first runner-up, right? And she's just been doing an amazing job. So I hope that when Miss South Africa rolls around next month, they will be doing something to honor Bryoni, because I feel like she definitely deserves it. And furthermore, I do hope that they invite our reigning Mr. Supranational, Dr. Fez, because, you know, he's South African, and even though his organization, the Mr. Supranational South Africa organization and the Miss South Africa organization, is in no way affiliated, I do feel like it would be a courtesy. Just invite the man. We would like to see him there. Don't give him any role. Just have him there, you know? I would love to meet him. So, let me know what you guys think about Miss Supranational 2024. I thought it was so exciting, you know? And even though it didn't turn out the way I expected, I'm still quite happy with the results and everything that happened. I do feel like a lot of the correct contestants found their way into where they were supposed to be. And it's always going to be a fate thing and a destiny thing, and we just have to accept that. But I do like our new Miss Supranational. I think that she's sweet, she's sincere, she has what it takes to be a great Miss Supranational. So let me know what you guys think. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.